All right. On some cup of Guru Yoga. Can't you believe it? Lamrim. Nadi Tantarandi. Nadi. Nadi. Somebody lodging university Chedwa. Dear Lenia. Somebody never draw choose.
From the heart of the stage of the 100 deities of Tashita, on the peak of the cloud is ebony calm of extremely white fresh fur. King of Dharma, omniscient Nosandrika, please come here together with your son. In the sky before me on a lion throne floats the moon, my perfect pure Guru smiles with delight. Supreme field of merit from your mind of faith, please abide for 100 eons to spread the teaching. Your holy mind has the intelligence and understands the full extent of objects to be known. Your holy speech with its excellent explanation is an ornament of those of good fortune. Your holy body is radiantly beautiful with glory renown. To you who are meaningful to see, hear, and remember, I prostrate. Leaves and drinking water, various flowers, fragrant incense, lights, scented waters, and so forth. Oceans of cloud-like offerings, both actually arranged and mentally emanated. I offer to you the supreme field of merit. Whatever non-virtue of body, speech, or mind, especially those opposite to the three vows that I have collected from beginning this time, I confess each and every one with fervent regret on my part. This joy for much learning and practice in this degenerate age, and made for freedoms and riches is meaningful. By abandoning the 8 worldly concerns, Saviour, we sincerely rejoice in your extensive deeds. Perfect, pure, holy Gurus to the billowing clouds of wisdom and compassion. In the sky of Dharma cloud, please let fall a rain of profound, extensive Dharma upon the receptacle of those to be subdued, exactly as we need. May whatever virtue I've collected benefit the teachings and all transmigrated beings, and in particular may it cause the essence of perfect pure Los Angeles teaching to shine forever. Offering a mandala. This ground anointed with perfumes, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the 4 continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this is a Buddha land and offer it. May all transmigrated beings enjoy this pure land. By the merits of having offered this mandala to Lama Tsongkhapa and his 2 sons, may I, my family members, and all sentient beings be able to meet, practice, and actualize the teachings of victorious One Losandrapa, who had the morality of an eminently pure way of life, was courageous in the extensive conduct of the sons of the victorious one, and accomplished the yoga of the 2 stages of free bliss and emptiness. By the force of having fervently requested in this way, hollow beams of white light are emitted from the hearts of perfect pure Father and Sons, and combining into one, enter my crown. White nectar, the colour of milk, flows in the opening of the tube of white light, cleansing all my sicknesses, spirit harms, negative karmas, obscurations, and irritants, without exception. My body becomes as pure and clear as crystal. So we'll recite Rexema mantra 7 times.
Sangye Chedon Sabi Janala Chancha Pati Kami Kapuchi Daki Cheche Pidetsana Rola Veche Sangye Rupara Sho Sangye Chedon Sabi Janala Chancha Pati Kami Kapuchi Daki Cheche Pidetsana Rola Veche Sangye Rupara Sho Sanji Chodam Soki Chonama Chanchu Padu Dami Kyasuchi Bagi Chushi Gibe Sonu Rola Penche Sanji Drupara Shu Kangi Tuzinyi Zoni Tawa Tamche Pambi Chere Tami Shuni Jende Kodam Kela Chante Lo Good morning, everyone. Can teaching them to the number seven? Yeah. Lamrim drew the answer. Any
So we've been looking at Lama Tsongkhapa's middling presentation of the steps of the path of enlightenment, and we're going to pick up from the point that we left off in the previous time. We're looking at find the relevant section. Just lost my game today. All right, so we're going to pick up today from, first of all, the section that explains the reasons for the giving instructions in a gradual manner pertaining to the steps of the path of those of the small, then the medium, and then the great capacity. So we started to look at those reasons, and we've covered the first section that explains the entry gate to the Mahayana is bodhicitta, the mind of enlightenment. And today we're going to pick up from point B. That I'm just going to put it on the screen for those people at home. So you need to consider its advantages and allow your delight to increase before mind generation along with the relevant sources.
Sajiti Karkati 2007.
Oh, they should.
On the Dinza, Dan Jadang and King Rosra on the Lamrim, yes, Chegoya, Junsen Suki, Sam John Chia, 2 years, the civil shooters.
So first off, in terms of teaching this set of teachings, listening to this set of teachings, the purpose of doing that is in order to train and purify one's own mind, right? That's quite clear.
Teresa, Dinza, Kazana, Nanzo Dedu Guzawadi, Benata Dedu Cheon, the Lusam Nichene, so Kichishi, the Kenichishi, and Sam Dedu Tolaya, the Drodig of the Civil Shoot Inza, the Sam Dedu Guzawadi, and Sam Layava, Sam Dedu Guzawad, Sam Layava. And it's simply Marowa and Maragi Sam Denny, and it's round the shin, Samalo, Medeva Soya down, Muntumba Soya, Manchamba Soya, Magawa Soya, Samalo, Maron is Sam Telten, Yungu Avadi, Yashiyadama race ra.
Looking at the root of happiness that we seek and also the root of suffering that we do not like. Out of our body and mind, the physical level and the mental level, it is clear that the mental level is much more important than what occurs to us on a physical level. So then looking at happiness and suffering that are experienced on a mental level, the root of them is the mind itself. And that being the case, when we look at different states of mind that operate in a mind stream, we can see how states of mind that are unruly, negative states of mind, those which are ill-mannered, are creating a lot of problems for us as well as for others. They're creating problems, disagreements, disharmony, sense of aversion between one another. All of that arises from, all of those states arise from minds which are unruly, which are ill-mannered.
That Chakdo said, and then Ransom said, 아니 간지 뇌섬 그 상로 그 자디 장쇼라 차바 아니 신쇼라 당위기 로티 시치기도 왔어. 디로디 자디야 저 마리바데 미시 몸비 왕기 용샤가지 마도 우유네슬이야 아니 장쇼라 차고야 더 장쇼라 당고야기 비기 유코랑 띠니 개바치 자원이 매바디 대한시브레스로.
When we look at states of mind that operate in a mind stream, jealousy and a sense of competitiveness, malice, and so forth, the root of those states of mind is having attachment to those who are close to us, those in our camp, and aversion to those who are distant from us in others' camp. And attachment and aversion arise from a lack of knowledge, a lack of understanding. We call that ignorance of misunderstanding, a lack of knowledge. On that basis, anger and attachment operates, which give rise to other afflictive states of mind that create problems for ourselves and others.
아니 쉐랍드 남아지비 남주기 로기체니 아니 레니 제투니 차가 그래서 당연히 라브샤질이야 뜨고 가자 아니 라브샤 딘디질이야 뜨치니 아니 샘 규주 땅야기 라브샤 렌치니 아니 텔레야 공지 때마디 때야디 다 람람기 닌 따오르디 디차그도스라.
So then what we need to do is to train in recognizing what is real, to understand reality. And without being taught to do that, if we leave it to just our own mind, we can see that it's not going to work out. After all, we've been under the control of ignorance since down that beginning and up until now, and things haven't resulted well for us. So not only we need to be taught how to take up those training, we also need to train our mind in order to recognize reality. We need to train our mind because currently we lack that wisdom that correctly discern what is real and what is not real, what is true and what is not true. And since we need to train our mind in doing that, we're not relying upon sets of instructions, which are found here in Lama Tsongkhapa's explanation of the steps of the path of enlightenment, of those of the three scopes. They provide us with a system for training our mind.
그래서 진짜 다 까보고 사진 디캅들이야 그 따와 된종도 저거 처음에 쉬 이만이 소디 아니 저거 처음에 비기 저거 처음에 봤을 때 간듯이 돈을 줘버렸어 아니 디 저거 처음에 비기 아니 자와디야 샘을 투겨봐 샘그 나니 비지 가서 다 지금 되게 매비 이샘 많이 봐 아니 소유비 돈이 아니 신뢰야 제와치야디 아니 세우메비기 아니 저버스는데 세우메비 람기 시자차도서 디 믹스카르로지 아니 드리시야디 디레샤스로.
And particularly here at this point in time, when we look at this section of the text that explains the reasons for undertaking this system of training the mind along the steps of the path, of the two aspects of the teachings that the Buddha gave, the philosophical view, the view of dependent origination, and the second aspect, which is this aspect of non-harmfulness, non-violence, particularly here when we look at how we approach the development of the practice of non-harmfulness, of not harming others, we come to see that it's not that if we do not find ways to relate to others in a caring way, in an affectionate way, we can learn to abstain from harming others. In order to train our mind in abstention from harming others with a behavior that is non-violence, we have to, first of all, make sure that our attitude, our emotions with respect to others are imbued with a sense of love and care. And this is a point that is emphasized in this section.
아니 비게 같이 레벨이 배나다 가보기 만들다 랑 아니 전주랑을 링 통치면서 전주랑을 링 송보고 아니 야우tun가 봐 차고라스 아니 야우tun가 비송 아니 전주랑을 라브치니 먼저 샘규지 dur고 위어반자 dur왕이 체도 먼저 아니 전주랑을 링나 일라고 한자 라브시기 전주랑을 링이야 오늘 담이기 집비기 소수기 따지 아니 쏟다고게 아니 짜치면 된 거야 뒷된 게 아니 야우tun가 봐디 따지 만들어야 하마다고 그게 아니 제비 장인지 봐디 아니 same thing 지 대구다 디 여바이나 아니 라브제 디게 샘라 팸바디 야세자다 봐디스 근데 매바이나 다가스 그게 야지 아니 가서 따지 니시 지혜장 지 아니 뒤즈기에 소리를 제바이는 아니 뒤즈기에 소리지 뭐도 샘라 팸야디 가고치하고 소리였어.
So therefore, we need to train our mind. And in order to train our mind, we rely upon a master. And the master here is Lama Tsongkhapa, that has composed this set of instructions that is called the middling presentation of the sense of the path of enlightenment. This is what Lama Tsongkhapa taught, and this is the system that we use in order to train our mind. So when we train our mind in this way, we then need to subdue our mind. This is the goal, to subdue our mind. And the basis of the training that we undertake in order to subdue our mind is the steps of the path of those of the three scopes. And that being the case, when we look at the attitude that we develop in our heart towards this set of instructions, we need to hold on to this set of instructions, to consider that to be so vital to us as if we're holding on to our own life. And in order to do that, we then think of how Lama Tsongkhapa came about, how he composed this set of instructions, being motivated by the sense of love and care for his students. And we can consider ourselves to be the students of Lama Tsongkhapa. So we then think of Lama Tsongkhapa attitude, and in our mind, when we also develop a great appreciation to the set of instructions and also faith in Lama Tsongkhapa, we take those teachings to heart. And this is the way to relate to those teachings. We think that Lama Tsongkhapa, our master, taught this for us. We have faith in Lama Tsongkhapa and we endeavor to put it into practice. Otherwise, without finding ways to relate to those teachings in this way, we might just involve in an academic discussion, right? So we will listen to teachings, we might discuss those teachings, but without finding ways in our heart to relate to those teachings, it would be nothing more than an academic discussion. And in that sense, the benefit that we'll get from those teachings would be rather limited.
어디를 니도 까봐 디나노야 같이 세움이 자와 전주 샘세디 테너스 대제도 중도가 남기니 샘디 곧 그만니 계고라 대계발라는 먼저 샘디 기비 페요공이 페요라 쪼슈표 시당 양아dom바 짬도 제바 고바 탑두단 전주의 송소스 야지치고 시발했다 송소스라.
So then this point in the text, Lama Tsongkhapa says, this being the case, those who wish to enter the Mahayana, let's make it slightly bigger. So those who wish to enter the Mahayana need to put in effort in many ways to generate that mind. However, in order to generate it beforehand, they need to meditate on the advantages of generating that mind, allowing delight with regard to those advantages to increase, and do the 7 limb practice together with going for refuge. That is what is taught in the compendium of training of Shantideva and engaging in the bodhisattva behavior.
어디다 다샘디께야디 아니 태바 첨부 죽되거나 태바 첨부세다 쉬나 마시나 간지 아니 로제 첨부 기야야 로제 첨부 기엔되는 속이 아니 장주쌤 공부를 벌써 오지는 비지 아니 랑이 초도 찍고질이야 아니 지 착신 지지 아니 신이야 당선다 차도선 대대바이나 나살래야지 마도 semba magiba cha야지 마도 godin 드려 싸우니 내봐 인자 지 탐제로 라 아주 지 소자 요도 저 대화대화다 동안 문제가 임바 윤전도 지네 이 탐제로 동안되는 찌마로 대화되는 찌마로 냠비다 지 아니 제가 들리지 거는 라니 대 탐제기 아니 대접 통행기다 아니 개월 초도 교원지 그래야 톰 되는 쪽이 아니 잔주고 선생이 인증 광고 거래서.
And when Lama Tsongkhapa says here, this being the case, those who wish to enter the Mahayana need to put in effort in many ways to generate that mind. It refers to bodhicitta, the mind of enlightenment. So we're using those terms, bodhicitta, the mind of enlightenment, the Mahayana. In short, what it means is to make a mind become vast and spacious. If we do not allow a mind to increase, to become broader, if we just keep it as a narrow mind, this kind of mind that has so many different types of narrow-stated, narrow minds, we're not going to be able to develop a mind to a great degree. So then, in order to make a mind become vast, broad and vast, we recognize the equality between ourselves and others. We recognize that just like me, others also seek happiness and they want to avoid suffering. So rather than interacting with others on the basis of anger or aversion, anger or attachment, we then recognize that all sentient beings, all of them, want to be happy and do not want to suffer. And we also develop that sincere wish for others to be happy and to be free from suffering. May they be happy. May they be free from suffering. So if we take that approach into developing a mind that is more vast and broad, we will then develop the sincerity in the mind to then use that as a basis for the development of bodhicitta, the mind of enlightenment.
어디다 딘디기다 지 semba 상보디 라 소주지 셈내야 계산한다 아니 소주 셈귤이야 춘 용열 제발이야 아니 셈디기 아니 로디기다 페유디 아니 로디기다 상원디기 텔이야 쪼와다 아니 지 텔이야 대박 아니 어 딘디지 베 셈띵이 용열 고고도스 디 용열 제발이야 먼저 지 아니 융하기 아니 디드 다 슈크쳔보도서 바지 아니 다고 맞지 봐이나 아니 셈주에 빼마서 가고 샤원자 아니 양아돈 잠로도 제보 아니 고야디야 아니 조 셈디기에 차도스라
In short, we want to develop a kind-hearted approach to others. And in order to do that, we need to take care of our mind. When we do that, when we develop that on the mental level, we need to develop delight in doing that. We need also to develop faith in doing that. And we need to allow it to become a deep, heartfelt sense of delight in putting into practice those instructions, to have deep, heartfelt faith in those instructions. In order for that to occur, we need to purify negativities and obscurations, because without purifying negativities and obscurations, it would be difficult to develop that as a heartfelt approach to a practice. So that in order to purify negativities and obscurations, as Lama Tsongkhapa mentions in this section, we practice things like the 7 limb practice together with going for refuge.
그래다 아니 샘디 선전 탐제 비다 아니 마터 아니 진퉁이 아니 마터 경영기 아니 전주 샘싱이 디 용야려야 다시 간지 선전 탐제려야 펜디 바시 중 두개기 아니 상무 디 용야려야 안감주 릉아기 쩌바디네요 아니 교화당고도스라 만주 릉아기 쩌바 마름 슈지 케시니 아니 셈바 상부 유스 랍데바이네야 lunga gichebe thoni ani chig simjin shingi semkham leya ani magiba sodeya ani magawa sodeya ani phogduk tangdeya mamushu jingu yorasra tinza yana domba kyamro de chiba chedi zu 룽아 그쪽이 조금 말없지 도리학체 로 뒤집어야지 저도 나나도 짱도 뒤집어 아 제거해야 뒤차도
After all, with the mind, we adopt certain attitudes. In, for example, considering all living beings as being like our mothers. And we aspire to develop an attitude in which we will be thinking that the only thing that I need to do, that I want to do, is to be of benefit to others. If we let our mind remain as it is, with allowing negative actions of body and negative actions of mind to occur, we might be saying the words, may sentient beings be happy and so forth, but in our behavior, will only make them unhappy. We'll continue to harm them, to make them hurt. And therefore, in order to make sure that the mind becomes soft, in order to soften the mind and to make it more gentle, we take up practices such as the 7 limb prayers, going for refuge and so forth.
체험이 람이야 조깅스 라운드 체험해봐 심전 탐지리야 체험해봐 팬딘 바식 주야리야 체험 광고자 체험 용사기 고다마서나 룽아 이스도 차가스 라 시안을 체험 치비다 고디 룽아 이스 디차간자 룽아 이스기 아니 저버디 남규디 아니 그길이야 야부지 땐토와나 아니 체험해봐디 란싱 용게지 라 대장 아주 딱 리뷰 남겨 담대 요래 리뷰 남겨디 시신토가 용야래야 아직 그게 아니 다 양아도 버땡고도 왔어 아니 나기 하저디야 그게야 아니 지 술라지래야 투바이네야 아니 샘감라야 마포바 아니 펜비 나지 땡고 오잖아 아니 준 타마츠 중 나케가 서버 아니 디디 빵고도 왔어 다 디빵발이야 아니 이래야 아니 라마 군주수 거미야 아니 나미 아니 잠드타야 서봐 디드레도 왔어
So we want to abstain from an attitude that is harmful. We want to develop a non-violent, non-harmful behavior. We want to provide others only with benefit and happiness. So then when we consider the avenues of harm that we inflict upon others, we can see that we harm others through actions of body, speech, and mind. We employ different physical, verbal, and mental expressions that end up harming others. So in order to transform them, to make our behavior of body, speech, and mind positive, we need to desist from harming others. In order to do that, we rely upon the 7 limbs. In a speech, for example, we want a speech to become a positive way of speaking, to not involved in lying and divisive speech and in harsh speech or meaningless chatter. We need to make sure that we deliberately or intentionally abstain from such negative behavior. In order to do that, we develop faith and trust in the Lama, the 3 objects of refuge. We go for refuge to them.
그래서 다디 케네디 아니 자스좀 시월에 달갑도 준주 거야다 아니 다 세신 당바시로 아니 전주생 폐 때는 준주를 담을 거야 전주생 폐 아니 당한 데는 맞지더니 장투 말이 장데나 다 뒤서 이거 말마도 아니 드린 송요레스 아니 드린 답도 나와야 조디 아니 즉 폐여야 폐여서는 전주생 대박 조데 대바디 케이션이 맞지 아니 답도 나와야 아니 믹스카니 아니 드린 송도 스라
So then in order to do that, we also think of the benefits and the qualities of those trainings, such as, for example, the ones that are mentioned in Shantideva's Compendium of Training and his Guide to Bodhisattva Way of Life. In the first chapter of the Guide to Bodhisattva Way of Life, the benefits of bodhicitta are mentioned. And it will take a long time to list down all the good qualities of bodhicitta, and we're not going to go into that now, but you look at that and you also look at the instructions that Shantideva left in his Compendium of Training, and through that you develop faith in your own training. you see the qualities and you develop a sense of appreciation to those trainings, and faith arises in your mind.
this that one show chabudi and six mark what the yomares have to go on this to see that and heavy cord pay some ya pembutin son yours.
So if you take the time to look at this text, if you look at, for example, at the beginning of the Compendium of Trainings, and take the time to read through that leisurely, Geshe reckons that it will be a transformative experience in the sense that your mind will be inspired by the good qualities of the states of mind that you seek to develop.
그래서 대들 송비다 남들들 준준 송고 대들 송비 배유 주드나 아니 니를 두그레스 내가 배유도 다들 배유세 아 당볼라야 남좀 동화도 아니 덴로기와 니데 내가 될야 샘디께는 남송 그 가르사 다바타 치소고 균체라 덴리큐 하사노 디심비 야체 페와타 사도 체반난게 디권은 나니 and seven tameva, muntameva, and Kudroya, or the Nijinguris.
So then the advantages of striving for this mind says, if we summarize the advantages set forth in this way, there are two: temporary and ultimate advantages. The former, again, are twofold. Not to fall to the lower rebirths and to be born in fortunate rebirths. Once this mind has arisen, the causes of miserable existences accumulated previously are purified, and the continuity of accumulating them in the future is cut.
Telda bena chanju sem de kena ane ngonsung gyu khandas thagres ngonsung gyu di khandajin segres ro ane dendri gyu ane sem de keba chamjigi dendri gyu khandaji sagres ngonsung sem le toboyon shogro ro.
Sorry, I should have continued with my reading in saying the causes of fortunate rebirths accumulated previously due to being conjoined with it increase extensively, and the ones newly created due to being motivated by it become unlimited. So here it states that through developing bodhicitta, developing the generated mind, we will put an end, we'll come to put an end to negative actions that bring forward negative states of rebirth or miserable states of rebirth. And we will also create positive causes for a good state of rebirth. So how does this happen?
There is a pena the Nansung Gyu Selamazna, Nansung Gyudi, and saving somebody, nursing somebody, Pena Shenlea, Nursichia, Shing Sok Troyal Soba, and but Didi, Shenlea, Nijuchia, Shenlea, Tongchong Chia, and what Didi, Kanjing Nansung Gyu. Nansung Gyu Chagores. The deity and tell me the number down and Shenley and Pensum, Shenley and Zewa, and or Kinji Tony, and Long Maron and Jishu deity, and D Tony Tago does. Same Yundi, same Yunding Chani, same Yundi, same Yunding Chani, same Yundi, Yon Tango Mother, same Yundindi. Chi subjigi toni semgi yonde druyamidas ra.
Through developing the generated mind, bodhicitta, and the mind of enlightenment, we reduce attitudes of malice and violent attitude. So through malice and violence, harming others, we end up behaving in a way that is detrimental to others. We might even take the life of others. And even if we don't do that, we might be behaving in a way that is disparaging, looking down on others, belittling others, and so forth. So then to counteract these types of attitude, we develop a practice of non-harmfulness, non-violence. And that is motivated by an attitude of love and care for others, an altruistic intention. And this altruistic intention that we develop, an attitude of love and care to others, are the things that purify causes for being born in miserable states of existence. So through malice, violence, and so forth, we end up being born in miserable states of existence. And to purify that, we train our mind in developing nonviolence, love, altruism, and so forth, which means that we develop qualities to our own mind. And the qualities that we develop in our own minds are going to be the things that purify causes for miserable states of rebirth. So rather than thinking that there is something external to the mind, outside of myself or outside of the mind that I can put to use in order to purify negative causes that produce future negative states, we need to do it on the basis of the mind itself. The development of good qualities in our mind would be the purifying force that will bring about purging or elimination of negative states that we've created before.
그래 다치 소바디 균체바 카레스나 소시기 페나 룽하기다 레 메기위기 메기와 소시기 규콜롱고로스 콜롱디 베나 뇌심기 샹라야 체와치야기 삼바디 메나 아니 체와치위 레 레사야 규디 용마로 메나 규디니 잠체도야디 너고 야치자담 레도스로
It says here in the third line, once this mind has arisen, the causes of miserable existence accumulated previously are purified, and the continuity of accumulating them in the future is cut. The continuity of accumulating them in the future is cut because the motivation and negative motivation for performing those actions will be purified. So if the negative motivation is purified, you're also not going to engage in actions which are detrimental to others, and therefore the continuity will be cut.
that dendri yung harsanam disimbi jachar pevatan sad jevanam je dikonan sebi tayomase tagaran rawasro manju yonden khandaji baina suzu chigbi penan da lobjon ro jinda tambuni ba lobjon chiabani da di kana ya sumba shibagi lobjon jambaina en har gin jinda tambuni ba lobjon chesha yudi shukcher roros yachcher roros dinanshe roros kanji samba samba di har sa jaga kana ya mentuni ani loje baina ani yachcher ro ibares yachcher chirrona ani zoya meba chayo badi ani gevi yonde resas tameba roya badi ani gevi yonde o digital progress song right.
And it says the causes of fortunate rebirths accumulated previously due to being conjoined with it increase extensively, and the ones newly created due to being motivated by it become unlimited. So Lama Tsongkhapa here refers to a gradual process by which your mental development gains momentum on the basis of positive states of mind that you're training at the moment. So it's just like saying that when you go to school and you make your way through the different, throughout the years, going from level 1 to level 2 to level 3 and so forth, your progression depends upon the knowledge that you accumulate in previous years. So on the basis of knowledge that you've accumulated in year 1, 2, and 3, you can use that as a basis for developing further knowledge. Similarly, here we seek to develop qualities of our own mind. And the development of qualities to our own mind is a gradual process by which you rely upon positive qualities that you've already generated to make your mind become more caring, more loving, to have greater qualities and so forth. Then one quality of the mind is that it can be developed limitlessly. So there's no endpoint to our mental development in the sense that there is no fun level of good qualities that you can acquire. One positive quality of the mind is that it can be developed limitlessly.
It is a dinza kanji gewa kompa the drogu yana gewa kompa the drogu yana ani nganju gewa chevalaya gewa chegu das gevalaya tuju tangchini ani gebju chegu das nganju yonding cha khanda jimbaiya khanda jangu yawan tele tuju tang tele ya ani troyu ani zum troyna lobjong kharina 아니 신투야지 럽존 디기 소소 메제나올이야 펜토 투야지 용구도 니난신기 아니 단단한 셈 종들 토려야 아니 뒤졌다 안 될이야 안 준비진 줘봐이나 야채 야탐바 아니 야기 줘요 버치 이내 당한줄이야 양한줄 나다나다 샘디 야기 만들어야지 예상 뒤졌다 두요 말았어 뒤졌대 땅바디야 그 내부 좀 내봐 아니 식샘이 양지 디셜이야 데스 제대로 팀지지기베 아니 펜도 친구지 용고 세나 다한바로 이래도스라.
So then in order to develop those virtuous states in a mind, in order to increase them, we need to take the time, we need to allocate time to do it, and we also need to develop enthusiasm in order to do that. And that is not only valid to whatever we do here from a spiritual perspective, also in life, if we want to develop knowledge, if we take up certain training and we expect them to be beneficial to our life, we need, first of all, to give it a time, give those training the time that they need, but we also need to put effort into taking up those trainings. Also, similarly here, if we do not take the time to train our mind, if we do not allocate time for mental training, and if we do not become enthused about it and develop effort, our spiritual progress would be quite limited. And Geshe says it's also relevant to him, so sometimes kind of you think that I'm doing quite okay, but in your attitude, you become quite loose. You don't either allocate the time that is needed for mental training, or you do not put a lot of effort into that. You develop a rather spacious and relaxed attitude about it, so that, of course, your mental development would be quite inhibited, it would be quite limited.
제가 안 탈두기 때 타와도 탐진께 받는게 아니 샘텔 때문에 델라도 줘발라 혼도 내가도 타두기 페열라 톰도 좀 많이 마시면 페열 때는 샘길인 종이 샘되게 받는 배가 좋으시 매버점 매장서 측정이 봐 랑결을 땅 신도살로세 디 그래서다.
And Lamrim Kappa continues in saying, when it comes to attaining the ultimate objectives of liberation and omniscience, which is through relying on this mind, if an uncontrived wish to achieve the temporary or ultimate advantages is not present, one may say, since those advantages arise from generating that mind, I will make an effort to generate that mind, but it will only be words. This is very clear if we examine it in our own continuum.
진정한 다치 로종약 톨이야 아니 뒤츠 땅 고야티 아니 개침부 쇼치 아니 임바게 무연내설은 샤고레스로 가즈는 안줄레 르셈 미요레 르드니 네갑섬 레마도 니마치글이야 잘자 야탐 털고야 임바티 아니 다 메모고버레스 인자 균튼 깨와 균님 종이디 아니 샘드 종고다스라 아니 샘디 지금 피글이야 야부치 내봐이나 아니 샘그 마롱 위기 아니 자와디기 제부디 아니 루톨라 뇽고다스 루 님바디 톨라 뇽고난다 루사발레야 루디 톨라 뇽고 루톨라 뇽진 간지 동안 뇽에데 소소 차로다스 인자 아니 깨와 균이 줘야디 샘 차고한자 뒤스 만슈디 샘 종야게 톨라야 땅 고야디 공무여가 투된도 왔으라.
Which means, in short, we need to make time for mental training. Our body, we can see that is a temporary thing in the sense that our death day will come at some point and we will leave this body behind and continue on. And if we think of a succession of lives that we will go through, the thing that will go with us through that succession of life would be our mind. This body is just a temporary phenomenon. The mind will continue from this rebirth to the next and the one after that. And if our state of mind continues to be negative, the result of that would also be experienced on a physical level. Negative states of mind contribute to a certain rebirth with a certain physicality, with a body. And if the rebirth that we take is a miserable rebirth, then the pain or suffering that are experienced in those states would also be experienced by the body, which means that the mind is also responsible for physical suffering that we experience in certain states of existence. So therefore, we can understand the importance of mind training in terms of making the time to take up certain training. Most of the time should be allocated to mental training.
이래서 배는 간도 상담에나 류기 간도 유초초로진 대대도서라 류를 하던 다지 로야스 레바이노 로시중갑 교주선 레원 다지 아니 류들이야 직견쇼 초초 쇼치라 아니 들이 다지 견 도자 쇼바나 류 토르에즈레다스라 간지 류 간도 땅 초초 진대대요 봐 아니 땅 예봐 땅 초초 아니 가뒤 땅게 예매 잘 못하고 팀지 인연가 차오지가 내대유티 만도 쉬우지기 비기 땅정 토네 손집 제와이냐 만도 손 투야 자원이 만도서 손 투야 자원이 매버지가 쉬우지기 배 아니 뒤에 참단 텔다 아니 지 착담 모성 상황이 결제네 아니 bedner진 바시기 아니 디지털링 안 무슨 단샤바나 아니 개월 지망한도 상금 투드레다 개월 지밀 루덴디 야후지 마용야다 간지 멘토링 안도 약간 태대하지 뭐 디지털이 숨어도 asra.
Really, when you start to look at the body, you can see how the body is so fragile. It's so easy to discard this body and continue from this lifetime to the next. It happens so easily, so readily. Particularly when you age and you reach your 40s and 50s and 60s, you start to notice how the body is so fragile. It is so susceptible to harm. And it is so easy for something to go out of balance, for a slight thing. And that's it. This lifetime is over. The body is discarded and you continue on to next lifetime. You come to see how it is so simple. It happens so readily, so easily. But then still throughout our life, we hold on to the body so strongly. We adhere to it. We grasp at the body so strongly as if it is eternal, as if it is permanent. And with that narrow-minded attitude, we willingly take up anger and attachment and other states of mind which are oriented towards this lifetime only. And when we give way to those negative states of mind, it has a detrimental effect over our future lifetimes. In a sense that if we hold on to these negative states of mind on the basis of kind of ignoring the fact that our body is so susceptible to death, we also bring about states of confusion or disturbed states of mind in future lifetimes. And needless to say that also it affects our state of rebirth. And if it's a miserable rebirth, there will be also quite a lot of suffering in those states, in that state of existence.
로 십중갑주의 열레사디기 님이기에 지 로션급가기 당한서 루지어라서 아니 지 제모 가르치고 제퉁이 칼라 가르사고 사퉁이 아니 지 아니 육체 가zul은 드러나야 드로퉁이 루디 먼저 육살다스라 먼저 베디 육살다스다 다단 먼저 루디 비지 동화쟁이 소리지 마도 비기 아니 간solaya 지금 상하기부 땡이 리디 간소 육살다스라.
Particularly, it's good to start to recognize that as you age, when you reach your 40s and 50s and so forth, and you start to pay attention to the transformation that your body goes through, you think of the time in which your body was so agile. You could use it for sports and enjoyment, for food, running, exercising, or what have you. And now it seems that as you age, those days of the body in which it was able to do so many things are gone, and it starts creating problems for you to the point in which the balance tips, and it seems that it gives you more suffering or more problems than pleasure, to the point in which the only thing that you get from it is problems and suffering.
제간도 양나다 참 야구 상담에나 아니 깜바 야구 티기니 간도 육사샤 믹스우디니 간도 육사샤 암조 세우든 나도 육사 간지 육사다 나 간지 류 약부딩 나도 육 로사다 이제 땅안서 예비 류디 아니 배 게시 코딩 류들이야 쇼지기 디차체네 아니 디코나 만딩 데데바이나 아니 로카시 지레 뒤에 나도 유야 야세야다 말이야 근데 텔레 나도 샘 돌아야 로종야 돌아야 뒤저 땅 깔레 잡아이나 아니 코도야 아니 탐해봐 줘야지 송도 왔어 디 아니 기치야 레샤스.
So think about it. These glory days of the body are gone. In a sense that you might have functioning needs before, but you've already lost that. Your eyesight might have been good, but is already gone. You've cast it aside. Your hearing ability was good before, but you cannot hear well anymore. And it is guaranteed that the body will continue to decline. And we still continue to hold on to our body so tightly. We grasp onto the body so tightly, and it still gives us problem. And certainly, sooner rather than later, will come the time of separation in which the body will be cast aside or left behind, and we will continue on to our next lifetime with our mind. That being the case, certainly we can see that there is a need to make the time for mental training.
이제 다 지난주 비기려야 로신신 같이 여봐요. 디 소소를 여비지. 아니 류야고디 배주치고 그랬어. 아, 그냥 저는 류야고디 먼저 배주치고 그랬어. 비기 축기서 그러지. 우지 내려면 차세라서 되지. 건다.
And also, the body can be developed limitlessly, right, without any limits. So really, particularly if you're young and your body is still agile, and kind of here I interjected and said, like my body, and Geshe says that, yeah, you can put it to use, not just kind of be slack and going swimming and doing just that. You can also do prostrations and do other things that are virtues.
알들이로 최고도서라 오늘 지금 로시미카드야 왕봉간 참마페 세우다 아니 게임을 누이나 가는 제트를 가들어야 아니 된다 개치야디 들어봐이나 아니 야 기브 가들어야 아니 성당사치 그 구조자마드나 샘페 아니 좀 이제 돈 아니 메시지에 두야지 한국 기업도 한번 참아도 용을 먼저 용적으로 왔어 용으로 왔어 디디레샤스라.
So really, when you think about it, if you make sure that you do it when you're still young, that you develop your mind and your mind becomes clearer and sharper, later on, when you age, you have more that you can draw upon. While your body might be declining, still in your mind, you would be able to maintain this delighted state of mind, delightful state of mind, and continue with your training. It is possible to do it on the basis of training your mind from young age. So please think about it.
그래서 너네들 진짜 대란 문도스라 아니 문통 일레기 페인님부 telaya 톰도 있게발라 기운 진 중진당 통의 삼바기 그소스.
So then the next point says how the lesser and intermediate are necessary for laying the basis for those advantages. It says initially, in order to develop the wish to attain those two benefits, higher states and definite goodness, it is necessary to develop attitudes common to lesser and persons of medium capacity.
지난달 가진이만이 기우 중무단 증기 somebody to 슈선바도 그래서라 나디나나 원토스 라운디 아니 하다 미 공방간지 아니 덴주 공방들이야 덴주 덴들이야 원토스도스 아니 닐레스야디 타와다 탐지기 공방들이 닐레샤니 다디 님보 톱 되게 발아야 아니 기운 중 som바 아니 소 아니 미기 주문 좀 손에 써봐. 너 아니 디기트다. 아니 기분 드링크 삼바 프로디 아니 타르튼도 삼바. 아니 지게 코 니무 판도 삼바디 아니 기분 드링크 삼바 소차도 디 이게 발이야. 고그레스.
when it says initially, in order to develop the wish to attain those two benefits, high states refer to being born in a pleasant state of existence, in a high state of existence as a human being or in a state of a god. And the states of definite goodness, these are the states of liberation and the state of enlightenment. So in order to develop the wish to develop a higher status rebirth, or to attain the state of liberation and the state of enlightenment, it is necessary to develop the attitudes common to lesser and persons of medium capacity. So we spoke about those two types of practitioners before. We said that a person of a lesser capacity is one that is taking to heart the practice of ethical discipline, which abstains from the 10 non-virtues in order to secure a higher status rebirth in the next lifetime. And the medium capacity person is the one that is developing the intention to attain the state of enlightenment, to attain the state of liberation. So they develop the intention or the wish to attain the state of liberation, and they see that remaining with afflictive states of mind is only faulty. So it is necessary to develop these attitudes common to lesser persons and to medium capacity persons in order to develop the wish to attain the two benefits, high status rebirth and definite goodness.
그래서 톰도 기고를 해야지. 다 유튜브를 해야지. 뒤차기도 하서라. 톰도 기에서는다 유튜브에 원투 비길 하다 미 공방이 아니 유드 견질을 때는 총샤바지. 그 뒤에 가인 거지. 규견을 때는 중국어라서. 다 규견티 그 튜브 규칙 내야 때니 제버도 중국어로 모두 민팀비 규칙이 아니 제버 종야 매버디고 뒤에 슈니 차고레스. 된다 규카르레스 라운디 규디 때는 뭔도 하다미 고마도요. 규디 아니 또 메기 주름 소야 되려서라.
Here it says, initially, in order to develop the wish to attain those two benefits. When it refers to developing the wish, you can understand that as developing the causes for attaining the two benefits, the causes for attaining high status rebirth and definite goodness, the state of liberation and enlightenment. So thinking of the cause and conditions that give rise to higher status rebirth. Well, in terms of the cause and conditions that are used in order to develop a high status rebirth, they need to be compatible cause and conditions. A high status rebirth will not arise from cause and conditions which are not compatible with it. So when we think of what are the cause and conditions contributing to a good status rebirth? Well, the cause for a good status rebirth is guarding ethical discipline that abstains from the 10 non-virtue.
제 당원도 나다 미 공방디 톱고야 윤생 카르를 도지. 그럼 선거 가니는 선당에 유지래서 원도 하다 미 공방 마타바이나 먼저다 아니 끼어디 류 지워겨는 류 샴바지 랭고고레스 랭로고레 다디 랭로야 딜리시 규들이야 야토니제 지든 아니 차담원송 토네 아니 류 랭로야 지다 지디 게섬 토네 비기 아니 처음에 삼루 토네 아니 류랭인게 셈이우도스 다 처음에 비기 아니 셈고 토네 류랭야디 류야가디 랭도스 라다미 콤바 아니 샴바 차방 토네 류랭야디 아니 지 아니 돈로도 소바 아니 만주미 통대야게 비기다 지금 무슨 소바 지 류디다 아니 미기 셈 코나를 때니 종샤야 차고도 다 딘디지 람바이나 캐카리얼스라운디 빈도 돈로를 끼쳐서 질이야 가야 제면도스다 아니 계전 시행 말에 남균 대신 말에 아니 지 장분이 제신 말에 딱 간지 남주 배주 싸우니 땅에도 왔어 다 남주 배주 땅 통인디 미 공방 조디 미 공방들에서 미 리들에서 다 딘지 람바이나 아니 란다 생기 아니 편 탐지 죽두면서
So we say that guarding ethical discipline that abstains from the 10 non-virtues is what we cultivate, the causes that we cultivate in order to attain a high status rebirth as human beings or in a deva state of existence. So then you might wonder, to begin with, why do I want to attain a higher status rebirth? What's in it for me? Well, if we consider, first of all, the factors that contribute to the different states of existence or the different types of rebirth that we will take, we recognize first off that it's not that we will be able to stay forever in this lifetime. Sooner rather than later, a death will be upon us and the body will be left behind and we will go on and take another rebirth. So then thinking of the types of rebirth that we will take and what kind of body we will have in those states of existence, roughly speaking, we can speak of two types of rebirth. There are miserable rebirths and pleasant rebirths. And the states of mind that we develop prior to death contribute to future rebirths, future states of existence. So of the different states of mind that we could have non-virtuous states of mind or afflictive states of mind on one hand, or virtuous states of mind, which means, for example, states of mind of non-harmfulness, non-violence. So positive states of mind, virtuous states of mind non-violence affect a future rebirth in that it becomes a pleasant state of rebirth. Whereas afflictive states of mind such as anger, attachment, and so forth, bring forth miserable state of rebirth. Like, for example, being born as an animal. So then when we start thinking about it, when we start to think of how it would be like for us in the future to be born as an animal, to be born as an insect, what would be our experience in doing that? So first of all, we can see that verbally will be quite limited. We will not be able to use language in order to express ourselves well. Also, our mental capacity will be also quite limited. Our mind would be rather confused or limited in the type of wisdom that we can develop in order to deal with certain situations. And certainly in terms of continuing to develop our mind, if we are born as an animal with a limited capacity or limited wisdom, we're not going to be able to do much. Also, other abilities that we can develop in terms of mental development would be completely missing from those states of existence, either when we are born as an animal or as an insect and so forth. So from all different perspectives, we can see how this is not a type of rebirth that is advantageous to us. For us, the type of rebirth that will be advantageous in that it is a rebirth that we will be able to continue to develop our mind would be to be born again as a human being. And in order to be born again as a human being, the state of mind that we need to develop is a virtuous state of mind that is bereft of violence or harmfulness.
대단히 표현이 좀더 있겠니 표현진기 샘디 공부나스 표현이디 내가 표현 온전하다니 공부한테 다두고 표현이 타와다 탐진기 공부한테 라 타와다 탐진기 맞는 타바세디 랑 발레 아니 동할 기자와 랑 동할 기자와 발레 타바들이야 아니 타바스라 아니 랑자 마임바 심천 탐지 아니 다 타르비살이야 아니 그 퉁인디 감다 심천 탐지 감다 뭐 쳇다와신도 아니 지 란도르 네때니 치 퉁인기 지 여바디 산지 공바디자 타두 공바스 대니고 톤도 그 삼바디 대니가 나는 조 심천 탐지 주도 산지 공바 톤도 그 삼바디 야 전주 샘세 그래서 다 전주 샘디 공바나스 라
So we spoke briefly about higher status rebirth, higher states. And then you have the states of definite goodness, developing the wish to attain those states of definite goodness. Two states, the state of liberation and the state of enlightenment. So the state of liberation is a state in which you're liberated from afflictive states of mind, which are the root of suffering. The root of suffering that we experience are afflictive states of mind. And the state of liberation is liberation from that, afflictive states of mind. Then the second state of definite goodness is the state of Buddhahood, the state of enlightenment, in which you develop the attitude that is not seeking just your own welfare, but you're able to be of benefit to all sentient beings. And that state in which you're able to be of benefit, not just for yourself, but to all sentient beings is a state of Buddhahood. And the mind of enlightenment is the one that is seeking that state of enlightenment.
That same D, that's Chanju same thing to go on Digi, Chibarada, and Shivanaja, Duji Kandakaina, and Gujinjil then Jongoanza, and Chanju same D, that Gujing Zao Karis Laundi, Chamba the Ninji said it is. Chamba the Ninji Kigolas, Chanju Sam Gombalaya, Chanju Sam, Sunja Tanji Chedo, Lame Zosan Combo 20, Chanju Sam Gombalaya, and Chamba the Ninji Gores, Samja Tamjel and Nibi, Chamba the Ninji Kigolas.
Bodhicitta, the mind of enlightenment, is required in order to attain the state of enlightenment. And the mind of enlightenment itself is a compounded phenomenon in that it depends upon cause and conditions. The cause and conditions that bodhicitta, the mind of enlightenment, relies upon are loving kindness and compassion.
That Chambad Ninji Samjan Tamjalaya, Chambad Ninji Gongor is Laundi, and the Gong Webach Reve Marisati, Yungros, the Nanzu Dojik Samlaya, and Tamjalaya, Chambagong Mugu Solich, Kashilaya Pilaya, and Dansam Ki Goyadoj, Kondrosa Goyadoj, and it Maravchi Goyadoj, Tindi, Toya di, Mishi Mombion, Gemata Digi, and Samjan Tamji, Sanji Jamden Digita, Chiguris Sora. Lendegi, the Chimda Mouse on the Lendeg Walla, Sony, some of the Chiguridas. Then I think Sam Comla Deva Devata, Dungham Devi, Ton Shevana, some of the Chiguremato, Kashila Devagoda, Kashila Dungagoya, Tendit Sony Yomardas, Tamchela Devagoyore, Tamchela Dungagoyo Maris Laundi, Tamche Dunga than a Chimorian Bigi, Zewadi, Muyo Nitsuk Chan, Kioba's Chagdos. Tamche Devadin Chimoronia, Chambadia, Muyo Sosula Junzen Sandana, Kioba Chagdos, did Tiki Gugres.
Bodhicitta in the mind of enlightenment depends upon its causes, loving kindness and compassion. So then when we think of loving kindness and compassion, we might initially get the impression that it's not, those states of mind do not apply to everyone. In that it's not going to be even right to develop loving kindness and compassion to everyone. We think that actually there are those that do not deserve to be loved. They are not suitable objects to be loved. So this way of thinking is solely attributed to not understanding, not knowing reality. But also, when we think about it from a different perspective, we can think of the qualities of all living beings. We can consider the equality of all living beings from the point of view of karma. Or we can consider the equality of all sentient beings from the perspective of their mentality, their way of thinking. So we can recognize that all sentient beings are equal in seeking happiness and wanting to avoid suffering and pain. It's not that there are those that do not think, I want to be happy, I want to be well. It's not that there are those who think that I solely want to suffer. All of us are equal in seeking happiness and wanting to avoid suffering and pain. And for that reason, we think or we say, may all sentient beings be happy. So this sense of loving kindness, sense of love and care for others, it is a reasonable, it is a logical state of mind. It is completely suitable. It's not a state of mind that is not suitable.
There is the Samjan Tamjela Mibi, Chamba the Ninji Kivalaya, plus Samjing, Dedu Sam, Kanji, Tamchi Dedu Samni, and Devad than Chimaro, Dunga than Chimaro, Yambi, Lord Kivo, that the Samjay Sheng Dedu Sam, Lord Kivalaya, Tambo. Rang Deve Ponshi, and the dinner Yavanas. Then Rang Deve Ponshi, Dungar Ginda, Koa comes to Sambanas, and Koa comes to the Sambana, and it's Kania, and 요구 매바지 힘바이나 아니 셴기 데두 삼세디 요냐 코레요 마레스 가즈나 삼바나 바부 요구 매바시라스 간지 소수 데두 토라 삼단 소수 코와 참소다 소수 데베 폰줄레야 삼단 베 아니 샘딩 양아지 매바이나 심지신 데베 폰시 동가지 누즈 삼나 아니 무즈빌로키야 인지 타브 키세디 용마로스
So Lama Tsongkhapa says here in the next section that explains how the lesser and intermediate are necessary when training in the actual mind. It says, having thus developed the wish to achieve the two advantages, when you cultivate the beneficial mind, it is necessary to develop the root of that mind, love and compassion. And we need to train in love and compassion in recognizing that all sentient beings are equal, they're the same in seeking happiness and wanting to avoid suffering and pain. And when we think, may they be happy, may they be free from suffering, we need to think about it to the point in which it becomes a heartfelt sensation. If you do not allow it to really inspire your mind, if your mind is completely unaffected by the recognition that all sentient beings want to be happy and no sentient beings want to suffer, if your mind is completely unaffected by it, you'll not be able to develop love and kindness and compassion, which are the roots which are required for developing bodhicitta. So you need to allow your mind to be completely affected by it. As Lama Tsongkhapa says, in this regard, if your body hair does not shiver and quiver as you think about the way you yourself wander in cyclic existence, deprived of happiness and oppressed by suffering, there is no way the inability to bear how other sentient beings are deprived of happiness and oppressed by sufferings can come about. So you need to allow your mind, first of all, to be affected by the recognition of your own suffering to the point in which the hair on your body stands on ends and you're completely, your mind is completely affected by it. You cannot bear your own suffering. And then you shift your focus to others and you become incapable of bearing the sufferings of others. So you need to come to the point in which your mind is deeply affected by that, which is the mark for developing loving kindness and compassion towards others. Which is what Shantideva says in his Guide to a Bodhisattva Way of Life. In beings to whom up to now such minds for even their own sake have not occurred, not even in their dreams, how could they arise for others?
This is 다시 시선 디체스 개우 총 가서 상당다 라나 나송기 동할기 내가 봤었다. 아 딩기 가서 토르나야 아니 동할시 시대 매주 삼니 간지 코와 참주 삼니 아니 민족계에서도 디톤 대니 년도 기회 심전나와 양 아니 랑님라 빠니 관배 잠바데 인지 기회 유결시 대리 찬주기 셈 기회 아니 총진단 통모의 삼바정원이 잔주기 셈 찍어만이 바기비 타비노스.
That's so. For that reason, once you have thought about how, in the context of persons of small capacity, the harm of suffering of the lower rebirths befalls you, and how in the context of persons of medium capacity, even in high rebirths, there is suffering and no peace or happiness. Meditation in accordance with your own experience and sentient beings who have become dear to you become the cause for love and compassion to arise, which means that you need to think of the way in which you yourself cycle again and again in the cycles of existence and how in the different cycles of existence you end up experiencing suffering. And then you can shift your focus to observe other living beings, so those who are dear to your heart, and you understand that they go through the same cycles. And through that, it says, in accord with your own experience, and sentient beings who have become dear to you become the cause for love and compassion to arise. Since bodhicitta is born from them, training in the thoughts shared with persons of small and medium capacities, the means of generating uncontrived bodhicitta.
네, the sound down, the sound down, give chung of some down, and dig, give drink somebody a carping do, give drink somebody color, so car to some shield, tea give chimping somebody a carping do, tea cause ravina, and one day lamrim be and sozolaya, one the turning danga chat to get yonsaras, until digo does that.
So really, when you start to think of this section, you wonder, for example, how is it that training my mind in the steps of the path of those of the small capacity contribute to my training of the mind in those of medium capacity? And if I do take up the training of the steps of the path of those of medium capacity, how will it help my training in the steps of the path of those of great capacity in terms of, for example, developing bodhicitta and so forth? Then that contemplation will be, for you, would be something that will make it evident that these instructions here are instructions for practice to you. So in that sense, you will see that the text is speaking directly to you. It is giving you instructions for practice.
Tinzata lamram di nganzu gi metsela samdana metsela pen yacha yatam pendo yobas ro suzu mezikibu kedeningi yomaras mezikibu said so and semba pape bu yon direndas rangazu juda jipi ji and lonjo ji ani ji kambala so modala so tusunganzu govorde ne ya khatsus yoba ne ya ti zamgi and semya shidite tulmebadi Besiuros, the same shide yon di and lamrim lavjati Yavaina, just Yatamati, same shide to us, in the Mitzel Delena, and lamrim lavjat Hamach. And Yavachima in an elegance Mongova, drop, and lavjati Hamach. Kanji made some which Mitzel Dinamayat, met some phone devo, Massambuch in Yadia, and lamrim lavjat Hamach. In the lamrim lavjati. The injimiji and lent to goyadi and Suzu Kevengelia to the shots.
So in that sense, when you look at this set of instructions containing the sets of the path of enlightenment, the Lamrim tradition, you can see how powerful they are in terms of bringing about this relaxed and spacious state of mind. When you start to consider that in relation to this life, how the Lamrim affects your mind in terms of this life, it does bring about the state of mind that is more vast and spacious, more relaxed. So, of course, we also have some physical needs that we need to address. So we might need a house, we might need a car and so forth. Of course, we need them, but simply focusing on these things and expecting them to provide us with long-lasting happiness in this life is not going to cut it. It's not enough. We also need then to train a mind with certain instructions in order to develop a greater degree of happiness and well-being, peace and well-being in this life. And that is afforded through training a mind in the steps of the path, which are explained here. And needless to say that also in terms of future lifetimes, when we train a mind in the steps of the path, it also brings about immense benefit in future lives. So these are instructions that we need to take up. They're beneficial, they're profitable for us. Thank you. Shall we leave it here for now?
Okay. Through dedication.
All right.
May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase more and more. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of pure Buddha, and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chenrezig Tensu Gatso, please remain until samsara ends. Save with the snowland teachings and transmigratory beings, who makes extremely clear the path of this unification of emptiness and compassion. To the lowest holy Tensu Gatso, I beseech. May all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. You who uphold the sedulous moral way, the service of Dharma bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjunath's victorious doctrine, who masters the accomplished medics and prayers, honouring the three jewels, save with myself and other such disciples, please live long.
Thank you. So we'll leave it here for now. Next week, next Sunday, I think, Saturday. Next Saturday, we have a holiday. Shukur.
중국 규칙이.
Children. Yeah, children do. So yeah, so we have a lot of activities planned for next Saturday. So please have a look at the website and come along whenever you feel. Another reminder is that we have tomorrow a day of meditating on the Lamrim, and Geshe is teaching again on Sunday, mind training like the rays of the sun.